to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. Yes, I know it's been Royal Fever Week for those people that have watched the King being crowned, and, you know, it's a new era in the royal family out of London. For me personally, I wasn't that interested in watching the coronation. I mean, you know, yes, I know it's a moment in history, but you've got to be sort of that way naturally inclined, and I'm not that way naturally inclined towards King Charles anyway. I was a Princess Diana fan, and I think a lot of people around the world had mixed feelings about, you know, it should have been Diana's day as well. But anyway, that's another story. Let's get this show on the road. So this week's Simply Tarot card of the week is the Emperor. So this is the card of stability or stabilizing situations coming into your life. So this is a really positive card for anybody that's been struggling with their life seemingly going out of control. Everything's going every which way. And it's like it's a time that now you can sort of breathe a little bit easier and say, okay, great. There's going to be some stabilizing influences that are going to come into your life now. We're going to start to sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel, start to get on top of your finances, start to bring the family back into control, whatever it is that you want to bring as far as a stabilizing influence in your life. It's a positive card to have coming out now. And I mean, particularly as the world is still sort of adjusting to the end of the pandemic now. And, you know, we're trying to get back to normal as far as work and school and money and all those sort of things. And there's been a lot of changes, and a lot of people are still sort of very cautious after what the world has been through with the pandemic about, you know, what's the new normal for them in their lives. I know here in Australia we're heading towards flu season, and a lot of people are sort of starting to again, even though it's not required, because they're sort of looking at it and thinking, well, okay, I don't want to be sick again. I might have escaped COVID, but I don't want to get the flu. So, you know, there's lots of changes, but there's also stability coming into our lives. And I think that's the really important thing, is that we have a time in our lives now where we can breathe a little bit easier and say, I can start to lay some plans down for the future. I can start to look at things in a more positive light, that I'm back in the driver's seat a little bit of my own life. Things aren't quite as unpredictable or out of control as they once were. So that's the Simply Tarot card of the week. We're now moving into the astrology section, and it's a really interesting time of the year because a lot of the energy or a lot of the focus is sitting in Taurus at the moment. And Taurus is the sign, it's the second sign of the zodiac, which rules things like what's mine's mine and what's yours is mine. Anybody that knows a Taurus knows that they don't like to share. But the other sort of really fascinating energy about Taurus is that Taurus is a practical sign. It's a sign that governs our own personal finances. And it's a time that sort of says to us that we need to look very, very carefully at where our money's going, what we're responsible for, and what we can bring more into a way that we're looking that life is going to be a lot more stable. It's also a time when the emphasis is on Taurus. Then it doesn't matter what your star sign is, make sure that you watch your sweet tooth. It's a time when we can sort of be reaching for the sweet things a little bit more in life, whether it's soda or whether it's a chockey or a treat of some kind. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any. I'm just saying make sure that you keep them in moderation, because it's the time that you can overindulge. And most of us don't necessarily want a sugar overload every single day in our lives. We know we need to be sort of looking at being as healthy as possible. So we've got the sun sitting in Taurus at the moment. So it's the Taurian time of the year. But the sun is holding hands or conjunct with Uranus, the planet of the unusual and the unexpected. Now, because Uranus is first and the sun is holding hands behind Uranus, Uranus is actually taking the lead here. So Uranus is saying, I can create opportunities or things out of nothing. So be very, very careful what you wish for. It doesn't matter what your star sign is. Make sure that if you're going to verbalize or send something out to the universe, that you exactly want it. Don't say something in haste or anger or something that you're just blowing off a little bit of steam. Be very, very careful, because the universe is listening at the moment, and the universe may just accommodate what you thought you wanted or what you said in haste or anger, and might just deliver. So just be very, very careful of that. On a positive sign, it means, particularly for the earth signs, which are Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, and the opposite sign of Taurus, which is Scorpio, things can come out of thin air. So opportunities can come out of nowhere, like job situations, opportunities to move, promotions, things like that. But you also need to be very aware that can have the opposite effect, that your money can disappear very quickly too. That if you're not paying attention or you're not really focused on your own family finances, that you could make some very foolish mistakes at the moment. So make sure that you read the fine print very, very carefully. Make sure everything's thorough. Now, the same is to be said if you're offered a job at this point in time and it's, say, a contractual type job. Make sure that you read the fine print. Make sure that you don't just gloss over it. Make sure that you fully understand what the terms and conditions are, because sometimes people write contracts in a way that's more to their advantage than it is to yours, which is usually the way employers go. But make sure that you are comfortable with the conditions that you're signing up for. And the same to be said if you're going for financial assistance, home loans, things like that. Make sure that you read the fine print, that you're not being hoodwinked in any way. So we also have Mercury, the planet of communication, is going retrograde or backwards at the moment. Now, this happens 3 times a year, usually for anything up to 3 weeks. And usually when Mercury goes retrograde, it's time when we lose things, and particularly on a communication front. I find people don't have their listening ears on, or they say, yeah, but they're really not listening. So it's the time, if you've got to have a really important conversation, make sure the other person is truly listening, that they are truly paying attention to what you've got to say. This is the time when computers break down, cell phones, mobile phones, any sort of device, anything that's connected with technology. Now's the time when, if it's going to go haywire or get broken down or miscommunicated, or your mail's going to go missing or your delivery goes missing, now is the time. Fortunately, Mercury's going to go direct again on May 15th, so that means we've only got a few days to go. But what you need to allow, just because it goes direct on the May 15th, allow another 48 hours past that point for Mercury to get back to normal. So Mercury retrograde is a time when we should be able to use the energy to focus on things that we haven't had time to get around to, because if we're not sort of racing around into meetings and out of situations, that we might be able to focus on some of the more important areas of our life, like addressing our personal finances or looking at things that we haven't had the time to do. So it's a good time to do research, because you really don't necessarily have that many other distractions. You can put off meetings and things like that. So there's always a positive to an astrological situation. I mean, for me personally, Mercury retrograde, I usually don't pay too much attention to them until something goes wrong and I think, oh, that's it, right, Mercury retrograde. That's why the cell phone died, or that's why somebody didn't get my email or missed an appointment or something like that. But I don't tend to try and live my life by it. I'm aware of it. I know it's there, but I tend to try and get on with life as business as normal as much as you possibly can, because I think we can get so weighed down in, Amanda said this or Amanda said that. Yes, all these things are guidelines. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to take them to be gospel and sort of get so paranoid with them that we're not really thinking for ourselves. Life should flow. We should be the ones that are the master of our own destiny. Everything on an astrological level or whatever other ways that you get your information is only a guideline. It is up to us to live our lives to the fullest degree. Now, having said that, we also have Mercury, the planet of communication, is conjunct or holding hands with what's known as the moon's node, the north node. Now, the north node is trying to show us on a karmic level the way forward. Now, a lot of people look at it as part of the karmic part of astrology, but I also look at it as it's showing us that the direction forward. So it's interesting that it's holding hand with Mercury as Mercury's going retrograde, that it's trying to show us to weave through what is truth and what is not truth. Now, many people sort of have, conversations in their lives or situations in their life, and you think, oh, maybe that's not quite right, or maybe they're not quite seeing it the way I see it. I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but this is my version of the truth. This is what the North Node is asking you to do, is to aspire to look towards what is your truth. Where are you coming from? What do you believe in? And sort of act upon that. You don't necessarily have to act upon someone else's truth. Unless it really resonates or feels right with you, then don't sort of act on something just because someone has told you that. We don't have to be like sheep. We don't always have to follow the leader. We can sometimes be the leader in our own universe, but still be part of the group, still be part of the gang, so that, we can still be individual and strike our own pathway, but we can still be aware of what's going on around us. Now, we also have Jupiter, which is nearing the end of its cycle in Aries. It's been there now for nearly 12 months. It won't be long now before Jupiter slips over into Taurus as well. So for Aries people, so Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and the opposite sign of Aries, which is Libra, please make hay while the sun shines. You've got opportunities at the moment. If you want to be noticed, if you want to sort of stand out in the crowd, if you want to change your job, or if you want, the powers that be where you're working to take a little bit more notice of you, now is the time. Now is the time to really shine. People are taking notice of you, even if they're not letting you know that. You are under the microscope at the moment. They are evaluating your performance. They are looking at things very, very closely. And for many people under those signs, there may be an opportunity for a job change with improved conditions, improved money, opportunity to sort of enhance their career. For other people in certain roles that they're in, there may be that, their name has come to the attention of the powers that be, the higher people in higher positions, and looking at maybe promoting you or giving you other opportunities that may not have necessarily been on the table. So make sure that you don't waste this opportunity. It's nearing the end of it now. So it's a time when you've been able to expand everything out. I mean, the other downside to Jupiter, of course, is particularly for Aries people, Jupiter can expand your waistline during this time too, because you tend to sort of think, I just won't stop at one piece of cake. I'll have 2 or 3. So, you do need to be aware of that Jupiter does bring excesses as well as opportunities, but it's a really positive time. And it's a time when you can gain a lot or get a lot done. And for many, many people, there's changes in their lives. Things that they've been thinking about for some time are now starting to sort of ramp up as the energy is nearing the end of its time in Aries. We also still have Pluto just dipping his toe in Aquarius, and he's only in there by a few seconds, not even a degree at this point. So Pluto is currently sitting retrograde at the moment. He'll slip back into Capricorn over the next couple of months. So we've got Pluto sort of teetering on the edge of trying to find his feet in Aquarius, trying to find what that's about, but at the same time sort of longingly and looking backwards and sort of saying, well, it won't be long and I'll be back in Capricorn where I feel really comfortable because I've been there for the last 23 years. So it's sort of like home at the moment, where this Aquarian energy is sort of a little bit raw. It's a little bit intense. It's a little bit, I don't know what to do with it. But at the same time, it's exciting and exhilarating, but scary at the same time. So for plenty of Aquarians at the moment, they might have felt as if their world's been starting to be transformed. They might have had to look at themselves. They might have had to look at themselves in the mirror. I know for a lot of my Aquarian clients, those that have sort of been happy to live their life as a solo sort of person and sort of, always made the comment that they didn't need to be in a relationship. They were quite happy with the one they had with themselves. And now finding that all of a sudden the Cupid has, struck his arrows at them, and they're starting to think a different way, that they've met people that are fascinating and interesting and looking at potentially settling down. And for other Aquarians, it's been sort of like the real light bulb moment that they can see now that there could be other opportunities as far as work or to reorganise their lives, things that they never dreamed of before. And all of a sudden these ideas are coming thick and fast. But at the same time, they know that they've got to be very organised and plan everything very carefully. It's not the time to go like the bull in the china shop. You have to be very articulate and make sure that you're methodical and you've got well-structured plans. So there's lots of change there. For Capricorns, they're sort of breathing a sigh of relief that Pluto's sitting in Aquarius for the moment. But look, be rest assured, you haven't seen the end of Pluto just yet. He will come back and he will give you, a little taste of his last sort of months in there, sort of saying, make sure that you really have reorganised your life, that you really have rebranded everything, you haven't left any stone unturned. If there's anything that you haven't done, let me assure you, Pluto will make sure that you do it before he leaves once and for all. We have Neptune in Pisces still, and this is a very creative area of the chart. It's really nice. It doesn't matter what your star sign is at the moment. You can really sort of start to feel the creative energy starting to flow. People are starting to sort of get excited. People are starting to make plans. The World Health Organization announced the official end to the pandemic, and I think that was something that we collectively as a globe needed to hear. even though, every country has had different rules and different restrictions were lifting at different times, and travel started to ramp back up, and the global economy started to kick into gear again. I think we needed somebody to sort of stand up and say, well, this is officially over now, that, you can officially get back to your life. Yes, things won't ever be the same. Yes, there's changes. But at the same time, now you can start to sort of focus more on creative things and start to have a little bit more positivity in your life, that, we can get back to concerts and going out and enjoying, time with family and friends, and just taking our lives back again, and, being able to do it with a lot less fear and concern of becoming sick again. That doesn't mean to say that COVID is in the rear vision mirror. I think COVID will be one of those things that we'll live with for the next 100 years, like we did the Spanish flu. It just turned into influenza, and, it still kills people even to this day, but people still go about their daily lives. So I think it was a really important time for the world to acknowledge that the pandemic is now officially over, and that we can get back to day-to-day living. And while the energy's sitting in Pisces, I think we're going to see a lot more creativity. Hopefully we're going to start to see people really come out of the woodwork that, spent the time in lockdowns and things like that, maybe creating some wonderful music or some art or writing books or doing creative things. It's now time for them to showcase it to the world. So we're going to take our first caller, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I know I am. Priya in London. I hope I got that right, Priya. How can I help you tonight, sweetie?
It is Priya. Thank you very much.
That's all right. I'm always concerned if I get somebody's name wrong. It's a real insult. Do you have a question I can answer for you, please, sweetie?
Yes, please. I'd just like some guidance on work. My work, I sort of have client work, and it all seems to be drying up, and I'm just really not sure about what direction I should be going in.
Okay, Priya. Now, look, the first thing that they're showing me is endings, changes and transformations. Now, I know that can be a little bit scary, and particularly when it's on the work front and, you don't have what, most people take for granted, a regular, full-time sort of job where you've got regular money coming in every week, where you've got, income coming from various sources. But what they're showing me here, Priya, is that there's going to be another opportunity that's going to land in your lap very shortly, I think within the next week or two, which is going to change the course and direction of how you see your working life, how you're going to earn your income. And this is going to bring much, much more stability. I'm not going to describe it as a full-time position, but what I'm going to describe it as is a very lengthy sort of like a contract situation that you've got, say 3 years of contract sort of work, and with maybe the opportunity of, extending that past that point. It's going to give you an opportunity to sort of breathe a bit easier, to know, look, I've got this amount of work coming in, I've got this amount of money, and I can start to make some plans for the future. It strikes me as the last 4 or 5 years, Priya, have been really up and down and all over the place. And I'm not just going to say because of COVID. I think it would have been that way anyway, with your work sort of taking you in many different directions. This will be nice to sort of know I can just sort of exhale and know where I'm going for the short term anyway, the next 3 years. And has there just been a change of residence, Priya?
Well, I'm just exploring whether I'm based in London, but I'm just exploring whether I move to Greece. But I don't know, like for a couple of months to test it out or something. Mm-hmm. I'm just not sure if it's the right decision, particularly without, my work changing. I'm just making me anxious.
Yeah. This work situation that I saw coming, that sort of like, like a 3-year contract, would it be fair to say that you could work remotely? Do you have that sort of style of work that you can work in any location?
Totally. And in fact, I have been speaking to someone in the last couple of days about a possible opportunity, but I just don't know. It's somebody I tried to work with in the past and it didn't work out. So I'm just not sure if it's the right person, because I don't know enough about it yet. But, I'm just sort of like, it could be something that,
bridge. I think what you've got to do at the moment, Priya, is just be very open to what crosses your desk. You know what I mean? Like, don't shut your mind off because it didn't work in the past. This is a totally new situation. Then I'm feeling there's going to be more than one opportunity. It's almost like I can see 3 separate situations crossing your desk. And it's like, okay, the one if I take the one that's like the 3-year contract, that doesn't enable you to really add anything else to the mix, because it's going to be, you know, very time consuming, full on. The other two, to me, might be more appealing in as much as it's more the sort of work that you want to do, but you know that there's no depth to it. You know, like they might be 3 months or 6 months, and that could end up being shorter or longer. There's no sort of continuity there. And what I sort of feel at the moment is that you need something that gives you sort of almost guaranteed income for a fixed period of time, that, you know, you can sort of, you know, you're going to have to work hard no matter what you do, but to have something where you know that, okay, I've got this amount of income for the next 3 years, then I can look at where I want to be located, that it gives you just sort of, I think, more security than what you've had in a little while. And I just sort of feel it'll grow into being something much, much better than what you first think as well. So it's sort of like, even though you might look at it with some hesitation or some question marks, the more you explore it, the more questions you ask before you actually agree or disagree to it, the better it's starting to feel. And you can sort of start to see, look, I could really make this something really quite special and unique. And you sort of get the gut feeling that this could have much longer legs past this initial contract. And I agree with you. Even though it's a 3-year contract, they're splitting it up into sort of 3 chunks of 12 months. And it's like, yes, the overall contract is 3 years, but every 12 months we review the salary, we review this, we review that. And, you know, you could end up with even more money than what you did in the first 12 months moving into the second 12 months. And I feel that that's good, because it gives everybody, then gives them an out as well as it does you, but it gives you an out if something was to come up and you couldn't commit to the remaining 2 years, that there wouldn't be such a heavy penalty clause as there would be on just signing a straight out 3-year contract. So it sort of gives a bit of flexibility there, but it also, you know, I know it gives them an out too, but I don't see them wanting to take an out of you. I think they're going to be very happy with what you're offering, you know, what you can bring to the table, Priya. And I think it's a very exciting time. I do think that there will be a move, and it's sort of to a much prettier location with a little bit more warmth. So anyway, Priya, that's where we're going to leave it now. We're going to talk with Kelly in Sandyville in Ohio. Are you there, Kelly?
I am here. Thank you.
Do you have a question I can answer for you, Kelly?
Maybe you could just tell me what you see for my future. I'm having a hard week, and I could use a bright spot.
Okay, Kelly. Yeah, normally I always just check to make sure that there's not a particular question that you want answered, because we have such a limited time here. It's interesting, Kelly, because the first thing that they're showing me is that it's almost like I want to turn around and jump through the screen and give you a hug. It's sort of like I feel that you need somebody to just sort of put their arm around you and say it's going to be okay. And sometimes I think that's all that's sort of needed. It's interesting because I do feel that there is going to be changes over the next few months, but I want to say to you, we can take them slowly. We don't necessarily have to leap into everything at full speed. We can take our time, we can analyse things, we can look at things and say, well, that doesn't suit me, so I'm not going to go that direction. Yeah, that's a good idea. I might explore that a little bit further. Has there been a lot of change or disruption around the household in the last 12 months?
Yes, ma'am.
That seems to be starting to settle down now. The other thing that I was being shown, and I wasn't quite sure how to tie this in, Kelly, was I was seeing a female, and I was going to say an older female, where you seem to have a lot of responsibility for. Is that somebody that you've been taking care of or helping them?
Well, that would have been my mom, but she did pass.
Okay. Right. Okay, that explains it then. Well, she's coming through very, very strong, but she was sort of saying to me that you haven't taken care of you yet.
Well, that seems to be a little harder than taking care of everyone else.
I understand that, but I feel that's, you know, she wants you to sort of try and, you know, find a little bit of time just for you, even if it's only 5 minutes a day. It's sort of like she's really sort of concerned about that. You know, like, I mean, she loves you and she misses you, and she's, you know, she'll always be eternally grateful for everything that you did. And, you know, she just keeps saying to me, there's not enough words to say thank you, you know, for what my daughter did. But she wants you to sort of try and reorganise things that, you know, you can sort of start to take care of you now, to sort of look out for your needs. I just sort of feel everyone in the household, Kelly, that's, you know, immediately around you is a little bit too selfish. I think it's time now that they sort of start looking after themselves a little bit more, so that you can have a little bit of a breather.
Well, I have pushing towards that.
Good. Look, I feel over the next couple of months it will become more of a reality. I'm not going to say it's going to be the easiest thing in the world as you push towards that, but I think, you know, it's hard for a mum to say no. You know, you sort of feel this overwhelming responsibility that you're supposed to be everything to everybody and you come a poor last. But you need to now sort of start sort of saying no and not giving a reason, you know, that you've got to be able to put yourself forward. But I do feel by the end of August, things are certainly a lot brighter and a lot freer than what they are now. So I think, you know, we just slowly work towards that, Kelly. Things are certainly improving. Now, your mum's fine. She loves you and she misses you, and she keeps blowing me these beautiful big pink kisses, telling me that there isn't enough thank yous in the world to tell you how much she loves you and she misses you. So I hope that's been of help, but I know that your life is going to start to move forward now, Kelly, in a more positive way as you start to put yourself forward. Now, it's really interesting that most mums, I think, around the world forget to put themselves first. And here in Australia this weekend, and I know also in the UK, it's Mother's Day this year. So I hope that all the mums are going to get a little bit spoilt this year on Mother's Day, breakfast in bed or whatever the case may be, taken out to lunch, or, you know, just being told to put your feet up would be nice. So this week I want to leave you with a very, very special song, a song that's very dear to my heart, and a man that is no longer with us who really, really did idolise his mum and thought she was the most wonderful person on the planet, and that was David Cassidy, and the song is called Mother and Child Reunion. So for all the mums around the world that are celebrating Mother's Day, and for those that aren't in countries where Mother's Day is this weekend, let's make it Mother's Day any day, anyway, this Sunday. So happy Mother's Day to all the mums. Until next week, bye for now.